The Vauxhall Lotus Carlton was as fast as a Ferrari Testarossa and ended up being the perfect car for UK criminal gangs in the early 1990s. Vauxhall and Lotus teamed up in the 1990s to create the Carlton, an unprecedented sedan that could outperform many sports cars of the time, with speeds of up to 283 kilometers per hour or 176 miles per hour. This model ended up being criticized by the police, the government, and British journalism, and even ended up being a topic of debate in Parliament. Unfortunately, the Carlton ended up being highly sought after by criminals thanks to its high speeds, and earned a reputation as the perfect crime car. The 1990s saw the arrival of some of the most spectacular models. Vauxhall didn't seem to be a manufacturer that sold models capable of escaping the police, but it ended up happening when General Motors, after buying Lotus, was determined to enter the sports sedan market. At the time, this market was dominated by BMW and Mercedes-Benz, and the main objective was to compete with the BMW M5, the sedan that flaunted being the fastest car in the world. With this acquisition, the American giant had access to one of the most experienced and efficient departments in car preparation. Lotus engineers were aiming for the M5, but ended up far surpassing it. With good judgment, it was decided that the ideal base was the Opel Omega. This model already had a very interesting version thanks to its excellent 204 horsepower inline 6-cylinder and rear-wheel drive. The Omega had an aerodynamic body, was relatively light and quite robust. Lotus thoroughly modified the engine to create a 377 horsepower twin turbocharged monster. Displacement was increased by more than half a liter to 3.6, and torque increased from 270 to 568 Newton meters. The engineers used two Garrett T25 turbos, a reinforced block, reinforced connecting rods, reinforced crankshaft, and a new oil cooler, among other things. Lotus also aimed to improve the Carlton's suspension, transmission, and chassis to ensure that the handling matched its new performance. The new engine was teamed with a 6-speed ZF manual gearbox, sourced from the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1, and a 45% self-locking differential, sourced from the Holden Commodore V8. Some people even say that of the 6-speed manual gearbox, only the first 5 were used as the 6 was extremely long and was designed to achieve its exorbitant top speed. This totally remarkable mechanical combination was not made to consume efficiently. Consumption could be between 19 and 32 liters per 100 kilometers. The powerful braking system was at the height of the competition and was hidden behind a striking set of light alloy wheels, 5 arms and 17 inches that equipped Goodyear Eagle ZR tires specially designed for the model. Unfortunately, the Lotus Omega, as it was also called, proved so spectacular that while fans adored it, some sectors of public opinion criticized it, and it became the subject of political debates in the British Parliament. That a sporty 2-seater seemed to be more or less well regarded, but traveling with the family at more than 250 kilometers per hour was reckless. And although its appearance does not give it away, the performance of this sedan was on another level. This Lotus could go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, or 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.2 seconds, and reach top speeds of up to 283 kilometers per hour, or 176 miles per hour. Not only was it faster than the BMW M5 and Mercedes-Benz 500e, but it was also faster than the Ferrari 348 and Porsche 911 Turbo of the time. The Carlton was just 5 kilometers per hour slower than the Testarossa. However, it was not the top speed that was most striking, but the ease with which it achieved it. The Lotus Omega was able to go from 80 to 180 kilometers per hour in 5th gear in only 9 seconds, as well as to do 1,000 meters from a standstill in 24 seconds. Figures that knocked out the M5 of the time. The Carlton debuted in the UK, and while people had no problem with the Ferrari that could reach 280 kilometers per hour, they had a problem with an equally fast Vauxhall. The editor of Autocar magazine wrote an article arguing that Vauxhall should limit the top speed in a world where Ferraris were on the verge of 200 miles per hour. The irony of his claims was that he himself had crashed a Ferrari a year earlier. Sir Anthony Grant, in the British Parliament, argued that manufacturers should not advertise cars with speeds of up to 270 kilometers per hour, and that some of these vehicles would end up being used by people unable to drive them safely. Parliament also argued that the Carlton was too expensive. The model cost $45,000, while a Testarossa cost more than twice as much at that time. And let's face it, not everyone is capable of driving a car at such speeds, especially considering that at the time, electronic controls such as traction control and ABS were not common, elements that this sports car did not have. But to argue that the general public should not be able to buy it ends up being terribly hypocritical, when the sale of supercars like Ferrari or Lamborghini is not measured with the same yardstick. People in government argued that the Carlton was the perfect car for committing crimes. And ironically, they were right. This model gained a reputation in the worst way possible, as one of these cars was used to steal 20,000 pounds worth of cigarettes and alcohol from various businesses. The most famous story is that of the legendary 40RA, which was the private patent assigned to the Lotus Carlton that was stolen in November 1993. The model was then used in several robberies, and it's said that the gang even robbed a business located 30 meters from a police station because they knew that the Carlton would allow them to escape without problems. The authorities never caught up with the criminals, as they could not keep up with the sedan. Even the police themselves admitted defeat, and Constable David Oliver stated that they could not even get close to the car, and it was unlikely they ever could. The people at Vauxhall opted to remove the top speed from the model's advertisements. However, several sedans ended up being stolen to commit crimes, and the media ended up using these thefts to brand the Carlton as unsafe, saying that it was unreasonable that anyone would need a car that could go that fast. The 40RA and the gang that used it were never caught, which ended up sealing the legend of the sedan. Without looking for it, General Motors ended up creating one of the most spectacular models of the 90s. And to add spice to the matter, it was also a rather exclusive model. A team of 55 professionals were on the production line of this Lotus. The production forecast spoke of 1,100 units per year, but despite the goodness of the model, the market did not treat it as it should due to the great crises of the 90s. Between 1990 and 1992, only 950 units were produced. Some of these ended up damaged, others fell victim to cheap tuning, and others had problems that were more expensive to fix than the value of the car itself. Today, it is estimated that there are around 600 units left. On average, models in good condition sell for $56,000, and the most expensive ones sold in recent years exceeded the $84K mark. When this model was launched on the market, the price almost doubled compared to the classic model, and one way the firm justified this was with a rather luxurious interior. The seats were made of premium leather, it had wood trim, electronic climate control, a steering wheel signed by Lotus, and a speedometer that exceeded 300 kilometers per hour. And we can't overlook the exterior styling either, which, while it turned out to be quite subtle, is gorgeous everywhere you look. From the 90s silhouette with new bumpers, to the details such as the air intakes, the spoiler, and the rear diffuser, this Lotus Omega ended up being a true thoroughbred sports car. 4 adults can travel like kings in a sedan with a spectacular style that will drive anyone who knows about cars crazy.